on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We have breaking news on KBLA Talk 1580. Earlier this week, and I haven't read the editorial yet, I wrote an editorial called The Crowd as Detective, What the Nolan Wells Case Reveals. There's a moment in every American racial tragedy when the public stops waiting for institutions to explain themselves and starts doing the work on their own. That moment has arrived again on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, where the death of 18-year-old Nolan Wells has become something larger than a missing persons case. It has become a collective investigation conducted in real time by people who have never met the Wells family and never set foot on Horn Island. A young lady by the name of Jeanette Brantley, a sound engineer, has now produced a video, a tape, a recording of the actual 911 call. What you're going to hear next is Miss Brantley explain her process by which she separated the original call from the background conversations that are taking place. The internet is blowing up. Social media is on fire in large measure because of Miss Brantley's work. What you're going to hear now is the voice of Miss Brantley.
Okay, so before I play this, I want to quickly explain what I did, what you're looking at on the screen, and why I chose to approach this audio the way that I did. As a professional audio engineer with experience in dialogue editing, dialogue cleanup, sound design, and post-production, I decided to work on that CTO call using traditional audio processing techniques rather than relying on any AI voice separation or AI enhancement. My goal was pretty much to preserve as much of the original recording as possible while making the quieter dialogue and background audio easier to hear. So I basically used techniques such as subtractive EQ, compression, gain adjustments, noise reduction, frequency isolation, and other traditional processing methods. So what I did was I separated Vicky, the CTO dispatcher, from Warren and the audio originating from the boat so that I can concentrate more closely on what was happening behind and around Warren, pretty much on the boat. And I specifically chose not to rely on AI because aggressive AI enhancements and voice isolation tools can sometimes introduce artifacts and distort the speech or create ambiguity around the sounds that were originally present. And for something this serious, I wanted my processing to remain as conservative as possible. You'll also notice time code and dialogue written on the side of the screen and pop up during each segment. That dialogue represents what I personally hear as an audio engineer while processing and repeatedly reviewing these sections. I'm pretty much providing it as a listening reference, not as a declaration that my interpretation is the only possible interpretation. And that's important. I want you to listen for yourself, use headphones if you have them, listen closely, and decide with your own ears what you believe is being said. You can also return to the original unprocessed recording and compare directly with what you're hearing here. You'll also notice that my time code may not match the regular timestamp on the original uploaded video. And that's because I'm working inside a professional post-production timeline, a digital audio workstation, basically using SMPTE time code, which in film, that's displayed in hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. Film and TV timelines are completely different from timestamps that you see when you're watching regular videos or when you're watching a movie and you hit pause. So basically the time code on the screen is there to identify the precise location within my working session, not to represent the elapsed timestamp displayed by the original video player. And I hope that makes sense. For this first video, I'm sharing only approximately 37 seconds of the call. I originally intended to continue much further, but once I separated the dispatcher from the boat and started concentrating exclusively on the background dialogue, what I believed I was hearing became extremely difficult for me to process emotionally, and I needed to take a mental break. But I wanted to release this portion because some of the details that stood out most to me occur very early in the call, like right at the top of the call. And so I'm gonna let the audio play. Read my transcription if you want to reference, but don't allow it to determine what you hear. I want you to listen first, listen again, compare it with the original recording, and then judge it with your own ears. I hope this breakdown helps. And my
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership. Shut up! Shut the fuck up!
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk of 1580. What you probably could not hear or discern, but you will certainly hear it and discern it when you turn on your social media. Can we cover it up? Yeah, I thought all about all of that. Oh, you killed him. He's already dead. Is he dead? Yeah. Yells. Nolan. Oh my God, Nolan, wake up. Inaudible but clear. Wyatt, wake up. Wake up. Damn it, Bart. No, he's really dead now. When the call was made according to this audio recording to the proper authorities for the purposes of towing the boat, while the call was on hold, it was still recording an enhanced call in the background before the young man starts sharing with the dispatcher that there was a problem with the boat. This African-American sound engineer has now used modern methods without artificial intelligence to strip away background noise, to strip away initial conversations, and this conversation emerges, showing a broad conspiracy literally on the boat. Nolan, according to the transcript, had already expired, and there was already discussion of a cover-up. In fact, the three young white men that were involved were present, but also 2 young Anglo-American young white ladies were present. And according to the transcript, they are the ones who recommended the cover-up. This is unverifiable news, but there are credible sources, including Don Lemon, including other sources that are now picking up and running with the story. The consequences and the ramifications of a conspiracy in this case, beyond those who were perpetrators or present who might have obstructed justice in the process, including lying to law enforcement under oath, including statements that were made in news accounts, because in the middle of a crime, everyone has the right to remain silent and to remain and communicate through their lawyers and their lawyers only. Its consequences could affect public officials. It could affect families. It could affect anyone who participated in the cover-up, hence an extraordinarily broad conspiracy, potentially around the life and the death of Nolan Wells. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Moving Mountain Mondays. Ernest Krim, your initial thoughts about Jeanette Brantley's engineering excavation work around the call that was running while the young man was waiting to hear from the public, from the responders. It was recording the conversation that was being had in the background, and that conversation suggests that Nolan Wells had already expired.
Brother, it's tough to process, as someone who has done short form content for a while, you have the liberty to prepare your thoughts and think things through. But I know I knew when I signed up to do this with you that I would be placed in situations like this where we be live and receiving ground-breaking news like this and have to work it through as we sift through our emotions. I'm overall speechless. Like, this is what we anticipated. This is what so many knew from the onset of this. This is what our instincts told us based on the history of this country. But to see it again in real time, a massive cover-up, I can't even imagine what the family, the mother, the father, how they must feel in this moment. And, the thing that immediately comes to mind for me is, for one, I think it's worth noting that today is also the anniversary of the Chicago race riot. And whenever I look at these stories and I look at them as a continuum of history, I'm often in a mode of reflection in regards to when has America ever decided to unlearn the mindsets that led them to engage in those atrocious, egregious acts, terrorist acts, these race riots, these acts of violence towards us. We know that race riot in 1919 in Chicago, like, nobody was ever held accountable. And when we think about what happened over the course of history in Mississippi, I want to give folks some perspective too. Between 1877 and 1968, there were about 700 documented lynchings. Again, that's between 1877 and 1968. And we know, of course, the most notable one is Emmett Till's, right? But I also want folks to think about two things as I give you those stats. For one, over that 91-year time period, right? That's about 7 a year, which could be every other month. But keep in mind, those are estimates, and that is only what we have documented. Many of these lynches, for example, Emmett Till's, the intention was not for him to be found. There are some who will brag in your face when they hang your body from a tree or decapitate you or kill you, but not many, not all. And when you think about 1877 and 1968, the question I want to ask everybody again is, we know they stopped in 1968 because that's when King was assassinated. We'll say the modern civil rights era ended. But again, when has white America, when has that mindset ever ceased? When have they ever stopped attacking us? We have just shifted the way that we document these things and talk about them, because now we'll just say somebody committed suicide or they just drowned. So if we are aware that they have never, especially in Mississippi, taken any initiative to say that what we did was wrong and we must do better, then we have to understand that 1968 was just a break, an artificial break in history, and it's still happening to us today.
I really appreciate your contextualization of first Jim Crow during that period and what we could be very well looking at without federal involvement, federal intervention in the state of Mississippi, because there's already been a coroner's evaluation. There's already a judge who's speaking on behalf of her child. There's already been statements made by people who were on the boat who said things to the effect that when we left Nolan on the island, he was alive. But if in fact it turns out that this recording is accurate, that it has not been doctored, that a jury of their peers can make a discernment, or a grand jury can make a discernment that this case has been fraught with misinformation from the very top, it could implicate a lot of people far beyond that boat who participated in the obstruction of justice. Ernest, that is something we never had available to us in Jim Crow, with the death and, of course, the assassination, the killing, the murder of Emmett Till.
And what's so powerful about the access we have now, which you explained in your editorial, is, before, if we knew something was wrong, we would have to find a media entity or hope that we can even reach our own media entities and get the word out. The benefits and drawbacks of social media are, of course, we know the harm it might cause to our kids, but at the same time, if we use it properly as a tool for change or as a tool to empower this is the type of work we can do, because we have to remember when we say social media, the second part of that phrase, of course, is media, meaning that anything that we post online is a media entity. So this to me is in one respect, it's empowering, because we don't get this far without that work. Just like in previous generations, we don't get that far without this advocacy. And I think we have to continue to remember this. And of course, we have to be sure that we are aware of whoever is posting things and their credentials. But this is an example of what it means when we come together as a community, because just how we viewed Emmett Till several generations ago as our child, as our son, we view Nolan Wells the same. And so many of us can relate to the fear of having our kids in environments like that, or just the apprehension we have so that they don't go in those environments, in those situations. I think through this, I hope that the Wells family continues to understand and know that they have an extended family that is trying their best to support them by any means.
And kudos to the crowd as detective, putting pressure on the state of Mississippi, but not just pressure on the young men and or women who may be implicated by this yet officially unverified account of what took place and the official account of that call. We are leaving enough latitude in this conversation to be wrong, but all of the evidence suggested by credible journalists who are already picking up on the story that this is well-sourced, well-documented. The process by which you heard on this station of the way in which the tape itself was analyzed has a profound consequence and ramifications for a massive cover-up in the state of Mississippi. And its cover-up could have broad implications for politics in that state, because don't forget, the governor, members of the Senate, members of the House have commented and have suggested that the people have been rushing to judgment. We do have a tape that Gina wants to run right now about some similar behaviors that you mentioned in Jim Crow.
Chicago's 1919 race riot, the worst race rioting in Illinois history. In the end, 23 African Americans and 15 whites were killed.
I think that's the extent of our video. The question of the Chicago race riots occurred on this date, on that date, almost a century ago. Not something that we are allowed to ignore. And I'm also convinced, Ernest, that so many of our young white brothers and sisters don't fully appreciate African-American history and memory. And that's a factor in why the crowd has gathered to use every tool. We've got engineers looking at tapes. We've got hundreds, millions of eyes on, listening to statements, looking for body language, looking for behaviors, analyzing the behavior of the potential defendants in this process and those who've been alleged to have participated in a potential cover-up that makes it almost impossible not to see exactly what we're seeing. It's Moving Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to me and Ernest Krim, Mr. Krim's Classroom. More breaking news when we come forward right here at KBLA Talk 1580.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says affordability will be Democrats' top issue heading into the midterms.
You can vote for an America where affordable health care is available to every single citizen.
Campaigning in Pennsylvania, Jeffries said Americans who work hard should be able to afford a comfortable middle-class life. The first Kenyan to play in the NFL has been deported. ICE says 37-year-old Daniel Adungo was removed from the U.S. last month after overstaying his visa in 2016. The agency also cited multiple arrests in Indiana over the past 9 years. And a song briefly posted to Black singer David's Apple Music profile was reportedly fake and uploaded after the account was hacked. The track referenced 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, whom singer David Burke is accused of killing. His preliminary hearing continues this week in Los Angeles as prosecutors argue the case should move forward to trial. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Join the Dodgers for Max Muncy Game 7 Home Run Bobblehead Night on August 10th versus the Royals. The first 40,000 fans in the ballpark will take home this exclusive Max Muncy bobblehead presented by AMPM. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotion.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers lost to the Mets in New York Sunday 8-3. They wrapped up a 6-3 road trip. The Dodgers are back home Tuesday night against Seattle to kick off a 6-game homestand. Today is day 3 of the Rams training camp at Loyola Marymount. No word yet on whether Pro Bowl defensive tackle Aaron Donald is coming out of retirement. The 35-year-old Donald retired in 2024. Donald has been working out at the Rams facility for several weeks. The Chargers opened their training camp Wednesday in El Segundo. The Philadelphia 76ers confirmed that LeBron's son, Bronny, will not be part of a package deal to join his father. Sixers Vice President of Basketball Operations, Bob Myers, said there are no plans to pursue a trade for Bronny. LeBron signed with the Sixers on Friday. Bronny is entering his 3rd season with the Lakers. He's under contract with the Lakers for 1 more year. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580. Your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Don't be anxious or confused about AI. Take control of your career when you get the skills to tackle real business problems and design specialized solutions. HR Dive reported that entry-level talent with applied AI credentials can receive up to a 25% salary boost. But where do you find training that you can trust? Future-proof your career and deliver more value with Humans Lead the Way AI. Their hybrid learning courses use practical definitions, real-world examples, and strategic insights to help you and your team understand AI with confidence. No magic, no hacks, no shortcuts. Just practical knowledge that helps you use AI more successfully. Don't wait. AI can never replace people who know how to use it well. Register for courses today at humansleadtheway.com. That's humansleadtheway.com.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
Here, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We have breaking news on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show in the Nolan Wells case. I want everyone who has access to Facebook who can hear my voice, go to this person's Facebook page, Janetta Brantley, spelled Jeanetta, Janetta, Jean Etta, one word, Jeanetta, Brantley, Brantley. She's a sound engineer, and she got a hold of the tape. And she was able to strip back the conversation between the captain of the boat and the officials to whom which the captain of the boat called to suggest that they were taking on water. And she stripped that conversation away, removed using traditional means, not artificial intelligence, the background noise, and she picks up a panicking conversation between several individuals on the boat discussing the death of Nolan Wells, that he was not revivable, asking the question, is he dead? And someone says, yeah. Is he dead? Yeah. Someone says, oh my God. And then someone shouts, Nolan, Nolan. And this is the breaking news from this audio recording that is now taking life on social media, and it's going to rock Mississippi if, in fact, this case is clear. Now, its consequences politically are extraordinary, not only because in the history of Mississippi, particularly the Deep Delta and the Deep South, we've never had as a people the technology, the eyes on, the crowd searching, the crowd as detective, paying attention to every single aspect of body language, behavior, and all of the education we've gotten, including creating sound engineers, including lawyers, including ministers, and honing civil rights movement and techniques, and challenging and questioning juries, and not being silent in town, but being able to rely upon, yes, I'm going to say it, a lot of young, progressive, concerned white folks are also participating in this process. It's not just us. They don't like what they saw, and their instincts are not betraying them that something has gone wrong. But maybe the most explosive piece of evidence, which could lead to some of those who've been alleged to have been participating at some point in time in the not too distant future, their consciences themselves will force them to come forward, seek a deal, or share what really went on in the Nolan Wells case. It's simply not possible unless we, the people, kept the pressure on the state of Mississippi. My producer is telling us that she has another clip.
As District Attorney for the 19th Circuit Court District of Mississippi, I want to talk directly to the people of Jackson County. Our community is grieving the tremendous loss of Nolan Wells, who is loved and treasured by everyone. Nolan's family deserves answers, and our community deserves answers. Every death in the county, except those of natural causes and non-criminal car wrecks, are presented to your grand jury. Many people don't know that. We have handled death investigations in this manner my entire career. Nolan's case is being handled the same way, with the same care and the same commitment to the truth that we handle all death investigations. I understand the public's urgency to know what happened to Nolan, but we are not taking time for time's sake. We are taking the time required to complete the work this investigation demands. Since Nolan was reported missing, local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies have worked around the clock investigating what happened to him. Every piece of evidence must be examined. Every credible lead must be followed to its conclusion. Every witness interview must be analyzed in context of all other evidence. The pressure for answers does not change what the work requires. Our responsibility to Nolan and our community is to complete this investigation thoroughly, carefully, without compromise, supported by the evidence, and worthy of the confidence of the people we serve. I also understand that many people have questions about why more information has not been released publicly. In Mississippi, the rules of professional conduct restrict the information a prosecutor can release during an investigation. Our restraint in communicating facts and evidence is not an effort to keep the truth from the public. It is an effort to protect the integrity of this investigation and the grand jury proceeding. As your district attorney, I have an ethical obligation to avoid public statements that could influence witnesses, prejudice a proceeding, or compromise the fairness of the legal process. My obligation extends to and requires me to use reasonable care to ensure investigating agencies avoid making those statements and releasing information as well. These rules exist to protect the search for the truth, not to prevent it. As divided as the discussion surrounding Nolan's death has become, I know we all want the same thing, to understand what happened to Nolan. With that being our shared goal, we must also share in the goal of protecting the integrity of how the truth is discovered. If we sacrifice the integrity of the process in effort to satisfy today's questions, we risk undermining the confidence in tomorrow's answers. When the public asks, what about this, or have they looked at that, or did they think about this? The answer is yes. Those are the same questions investigators ask. The difference is that we can't publicly discuss the evidence, the interviews, or what those efforts have uncovered while the investigation is underway. Again, our restraint in sharing details of the investigation is not a refusal to share the truth. It is our commitment to protect the process that allows the truth to be known with confidence. There's a lot of information out there, and there is a heck of a lot of misinformation out there. I simply want the community I serve to know that this investigation is being handled with the care, professionalism, and commitment to the truth that every family in Jackson County deserves. As we continue this important work, Nolan's family, his friends, and all who loved him remain in our prayers.
Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Before we come forward, Ernest, let me tell you a couple of things. Number one of the potential criminal defendants' mother commented, and she's a judge. She's not supposed to say anything. Secondly, that was the Mississippi district attorney in that county. She's only supposed to come forward with an indictment. She's also not supposed to say anything, including offering words of comfort or directing the people on how they should be handling information or the participation that the public may be playing in keeping evidence and going after evidence coming forward. All of the marketing and the PR of what has happened to Brother Wells is out of place for a criminal justice system and process that should only be relying upon information brought forward from the grand jury in the form of a criminal indictment or no indictment. That's the standard operating procedure. But what we saw from Miss McGilrath, the DA of Mississippi, she took it upon herself to step into a process which allows us to question whether or not she is revealing the proper evidence and or whether or not what is taking the indictment process so long. So we're very grateful today that crowdsourcing engineer Jeanette Brantley did her own work and brought forward some evidence that it's going to be too much to put back in the horse. Ernest, we have about a minute before we come forward.
You know, if we want justice, we have to fight tooth and nail to deliver it. And that's the message I get from this time and time again. And when I hear things like this, I'm hearing everything that they're also not saying. I'm also hearing how they're saying it. And we have no reason at all to trust anything that any county or city in Mississippi would do as it pertains to us getting justice. So if I was in a classroom, I would ask my kids to listen to this and considering the history and context of Mississippi and what they've done or not done for us presently, how do they perceive this message? And for me, what I expect to hear time and time again is we've tried, we've investigated in as calm a tone as possible. That doesn't escape me. And we can't find any correlation between Nolan Wales' death and any criminal activity. He drowned.
Well, inchoate crimes are called conspiracy. Whether they had nothing to do with his actual death, they participated in a cover-up, and that's a crime. Oftentimes, the crime itself is the cover-up is worse than the crime. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
You deserve a treat, a $10 bill credit treat. If you get an LADWP paper bill but go online to pay it, stop! Break up with your mailbox. It's time to go paperless. With paperless billing, bill reminders come straight to your inbox. You can access 7 years of past bills in your online account, and you don't have to deal with paper clutter piling up. It's a win for you, your time, and the environment. $10 bill credit for new LADWP paperless billing signups. LADWP.com/paperless.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is connecting you with services and solutions. Domestic violence and family violence is when someone in an intimate or family relationship tries to gain or maintain power and control over another through a wide range of abusive behaviors. Every single act may amount to abuse. Abuse can take on various forms: psychological and emotional, physical and economic, and sexual abuse. The Genesee Center Incorporated is a nationally recognized nonprofit domestic violence prevention and intervention organization, housing women and children from 30 days up to 2 years through emergency and transitional shelters. The Genesee Center also provides support services like mental health counseling, life skills classes, computer training, job referrals, after-school programs for children, field trips, tutoring, and comprehensive direct legal services. If you need help or you'd like to donate or volunteer, call the Genesee Hotline, 1-800-479-7328. That's 1-800-479-7328, or visit genesee.org. Everyone has the right to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm. A-rated by the Better Business Bureau, their award-winning tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $3 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Find the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief today for a free consultation.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Destination Crenshaw is still behind schedule, years behind schedule. Residents, businesses, churches, artists, and other stakeholders have questions, and they deserve real answers, not just promises. If empty promises poured concrete, this project would have been opened years ago. This week, join us at a town hall meeting, a talk about delays, the timelines, and what happens next for Crenshaw Corridor. The public hearing is your chance to get on the record and speak directly to the people making these indecisions in City Hall. Join us this Thursday, June 30th at 6:30 p.m. at Bethesda Temple Church, 4909 Crenshaw Boulevard. Between the construction crawl and the parking spots, it has eaten alive. Rideshare is now less a suggestion and more a survival tactic round here. So please rideshare if you can. If you cannot join us Thursday night, the public hearing will be broadcast live on radio and streamed online at KBLA Talk 1580. Our town hall warm-up host, Dr. Nee Quarterly Corte, starts live at 6 p.m. Tavis Smiley moderates the town hall at 6:30 p.m. Don't miss it. It's your culture, your community, and your voice, and we need to hear from you this coming Thursday. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest in this hour, our regular contributor on Moving Mountain Mondays, is Ernest Krim. Ernest, welcome forward to the show.
Thanks again for having me, brother.
Ernest, I'm going to pivot from Brother Neely for an hour. We'll talk about him with Reverend Dr. Terry Hord Owens in the next hour. But I do want to talk with you about the new standards being established by Tuskegee University. No do-rags, no pajamas to class, no slippers, no rollers in your head walking around college campuses. I was thinking about Charlotte Hawkins Brown, who, coming out of the peculiar institution of slavery and in the middle of Jim Crow, started an etiquette academy for the Negro. Ernest, your thoughts about the new standards for preparing our young people who graduate from college and an expected behavior that they probably should have learned at home?
Yeah, it's complicated because I come from an environment where, as a teacher, we saw that being legislated in an unequitable way towards our Black girls and boys. But we're talking about an HBCU in this situation, so it's different, right? I can only speak from how I was raised, right? I grew up brushing my head trying to get those 360s, and I wore a do-rag around the house and, maybe outside when I was hooping for a little bit. But the moment my mom told me that I needed to make a run to the store, walk up to Walgreens or drive to the store, whatever, I took it off. I was instructed to take it off. I was raised by baby boomers, and that's how we were taught. That was the expectation. When I had my first interview for a job, I knew I had to dress and act a certain way. I think the only cause for pause for me is I've never seen a college do this, right? I've only really seen this happen on like K through 12 settings. So I just wonder if our kid, I'm careful. I walk this line. I want our kids to understand that professional standards and what we call politics of respectability are not just applicable to the broader white society. As Black people, we also have standards too that we expect to abide by. And I don't want them to even just think that maybe dressing professional is simply just a shirt and a tie. Maybe you want to have a dashiki or something, or maybe you want to do this or whatever, right? So I just want to make sure our kids understand. But I hate that a college, we're talking 18 to 22, maybe 25 grad school. I hate that a college has to deal with this. So yeah,
I love the way you framed it, because I was about to light it up. Yeah,
that's how we would do as millennials.
K through 12, your parents should have told you what was acceptable to walk out of the house wearing. If you missed it and you get it in college, if you're fortunate to get to college, of course, Dr. Samuel DeWitt Proctor at A&T and historically Black colleges and universities, ministers who during First Reconstruction, most of our founders, both sorority and fraternity, during the beginning of Jim Crow, they had standards. It's rare to find them in a picture without a shirt and tie, a suit and tie, and a jacket, because the Negro was on the road to uplift. We were up from a condition. And there's no reason why, when you enter college, you do not maintain the standards of the institutions themselves that were fortunate enough and kind enough to accept you in the first place. I'm not going to stop there, brother. Listen, I hope the airlines are up next. No, I want to get this out. I hope the airlines are up next. Folks standing in the PSA line with their pajamas on and their slippers and curlers in their hair. I hope they don't let you on. Yeah, let's clean it up. Let's clean up the behavior. And that behavior right there, just come as is unacceptable. It is unacceptable. And we have to, what Dr. Proctor called in I think the 7th chapter of his book, The Substance of Things Hoped For. He called it the American moral parenthesis. He said, we must first accept and define the optimum human condition, and then we must embrace it. And then he goes through 5 or 6 little examples of a young man bringing a dog to a class, not combing his hair, and nobody else in the class brought a dog. He then talks about a young lady who gets on an elevator and doesn't expect him to tip his hat. He then talks about 2 men who were part of 5 couples that came to dedicate their children. He pulled the 2 men after he read the cards for when the babies were born, and he noticed that those 2 men claimed to be the fathers, but their names were not listed on the little card. So he pulled them aside to counsel them and asked them, were these his children? And they said, yes. I said, do you want your child to be dedicated today? And the children said, and the parents, the father said, yes. He said, now, are you plan to marry these women? And the young men said, well, I'm not sure about that. And then he had them sit down and said, listen, how do I know 9 months from now you're not going to come back here with another woman and another baby to have her dedicated before my congregation? And why should we just rubber stamp your behavior, which is leading to a deterioration in behaviors in our community? So y'all just sit here on the front row. I'm going to dedicate the children, but I'm not going to let you participate in the dedication ceremony. He went on to define the American moral parenthesis with 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 very important examples, but most importantly, Professor Ernest Krim, he's asking you that when you see it, call it into being. Don't just accept it. That we have an obligation to be that stranger in that child's life to change the trajectory of how they see themselves, regardless of how they were raised, regardless of the circumstances of the hood, regardless of what we know now what acceptable behavior is. We saw even some of our rappers in Crenshaw. We saw some of them, their behavior when they were gangster. And then they went all the way to the Super Bowl. And now they're in movies. And you know what? They matured and they changed their ways as they were exposed to more. And it's okay to fight for that standard. Ernest, we have about 1.5 minutes for your word of hope.
Yeah, I think you laid it down, man. I mean, I look at myself oftentimes as a middle child. I'm caught between a couple generations, and I just, that expectation was always the premium, for us. Throughout history, just when you leave the house, you expect it to look a certain way. And as an educator, public schools and I understand at that level, but I would be curious to know why our kids would want to continue to do that in college settings. I'm more curious of the why. Like, I want to sit them down on that orientation and say, why do you want to do that? Why you want to just, roll over and come to class that way? So I'll use this last 30 seconds or so to say that we need to make sure through all of this that we reestablish our connections with our kids and with our community. And I think that that type of behavior is indicative of a breakdown of communication and a breakdown of us sitting down with our elders, right? There are certain things that we must learn from each other. It goes both ways, but there's also so much more that we can learn from those who are paved the way, which of course speaks to why I'm always grateful to be sitting down in community with you, because there's so much I can learn as well.
One final example for Dr. Proctor, and I know that my time is up because I'm at the top of the hour, but I got to say it. He said in a later chapter on the question of the moral parenthesis, a young man who transferred from the University of Illinois, didn't grow up in a household with his daddy, came into his office one day and said he wanted to play football, but his first freshman year, he was treated unkindly because of segregation and racism, and the white folks wouldn't let him be quarterback. But he wouldn't make any excuses. He said he could rap and he could talk. He decided to let him into college, the North Carolina A&T State University. He then goes on to say that young man went by the name of Jesse Jackson. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Thank you, Brother Krim. I'll see you next week.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you, brother.
On KBLA Talk 1580, more when we come forward on Moving Mountain Mondays with Reverend Teresa Hordowens.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says affordability will be Democrats' top issue heading into the midterms.
You can vote for an America where affordable health care is available to every single citizen.
Campaigning in Pennsylvania, Jeffries said Americans who work hard should be able to afford a comfortable middle-class life. The first Kenyan to play in the NFL has been deported. ICE says 37-year-old Daniel Adungo was removed from the U.S. last month after overstaying his visa in 2016. The agency also cited multiple arrests in Indiana over the past 9 years. And a song briefly posted to Black singer David's Apple Music profile was reportedly fake and uploaded after the account was hacked. The track referenced 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, whom singer David Burke is accused of killing. This preliminary hearing continues this week in Los Angeles as prosecutors argue the case should move forward to trial. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Join the Dodgers for Max Muncy Game 7 Home Run Bobblehead Night on August 10th versus the Royals. The first 40,000 fans in the ballpark will take home this exclusive Max Muncy bobblehead presented by AM/PM. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotion.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers lost to the Mets in New York Sunday 8-3. They wrapped up a 6-3 road trip. The Dodgers are back home Tuesday night against Seattle to kick off a 6-game homestand. Today is day 3 of the Rams training camp at Loyola Marymount. No word yet on whether Pro Bowl defensive tackle Aaron Donald is coming out of retirement. The 35-year-old Donald retired in 2024. Donald has been working out at the Rams facility for several weeks. The Chargers opened their training camp Wednesday in El Segundo. The Philadelphia 76ers confirmed that LeBron's son Bronny will not be part of a package deal to join his father. Sixers Vice President of Basketball Operations Bob Myers said there are no plans to pursue a trade for Bronny. LeBron signed with the Sixers on Friday. Bronny is entering his 3rd season with the Lakers. He's under contract with the Lakers for 1 more year. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let me put my hard hat on, go back outside, and see if these procrastination Crenshaw construction crews have shown up yet. I'm saving space for grace, but if these trucks don't show up soon, well, you already know.
Destination Crenshaw, your time is up. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. KBLA Talk 1580 and Bethesda Temple Church invite residents, churches, businesses, and community leaders along the Crenshaw corridor to join a vitally important community conversation Thursday, July 30th, 6:30 p.m. at Bethesda Temple Church, 4909 Crenshaw Boulevard. For years now, this community has been living with unkept promises and the devastating effects of the unfinished Destination Crenshaw construction project, leaving residents, businesses, and churches to deal with myriad problems, including the loss of parking, restricted access, traffic congestion, and a lack of emergency vehicle access when it matters most. For years now, Procrastination Crenshaw has directly contributed to the loss of customer revenue for local Black-owned businesses and, sadly, has forced the closure of some businesses along this 1.3-mile corridor. For years now, churches have been experiencing decreased attendance due to the elimination of parking, and social service programs for vulnerable fellow citizens have been altogether halted. For years now, residents have watched their quality of life erode, and nothing has been done about it. If they think they can get away with treating Black folk like second-class citizens, they better think again.
You better think about what you're trying to do to me.
This town hall meeting is a reckoning, a public witness, an opportunity for impacted community members to share their experiences for the public record as we prepare to hold those responsible accountable for this enduring nightmare. So please join us Thursday, July 30th, 6:30 p.m. at Bethesda Temple Church, 4909 Crenshaw Boulevard. This town hall meeting is free and open to the public, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. There is breaking news in the Nolan Ryan's case, to which we spoke of in the first hour and will continue in this hour. But I do want to read an editorial that I did not deliver last week, but would love to deliver right now. The Crowd as Detective. What the Nolan Wells case reveals: there is a moment in every American racial tragedy when the public stops waiting for institutions to explain themselves and starts doing the work on its own. That moment has arrived again on Mississippi's Gulf Coast, where the death of 18-year-old Nolan Wells has become something larger than a missing persons case. It has become a collective investigation conducted in real time by people who have never met the Wells family and never set foot on Horn Island. Wells went missing on July 4th, boat trip with 3 friends. His body was recovered 2 days later. In the week since, sociologists, psychologists, attorneys, ordinary citizens with no formal training at all have combed through every public statement, cross-referencing timelines, flagging inconsistencies, debating what a young athlete who knew him could swim or would not do. Attorney Ben Crump has pointed to a direction contradiction at the center of it. One account has Wells telling a young woman he was heading back to the boat, while his friends say he told them he was staying behind. An independent autopsy came back undetermined, unable to rule out foul play. Its findings presented not in a courtroom, but in a press conference. 60 witnesses have been interviewed. The FBI is examining digital evidence, and still the public asks, who's telling the truth? This is not simply morbid curiosity. It is something Black America has been forced to develop over generations. That's right. We are Perry Mason, a parallel system of fact-finding born of necessity because the official system has too often arrived at conclusions that did not survive contact with the evidence. Emmett Till was murdered in 1955. An all-white jury acquitted his killers in barely an hour, and it was left to his mother, Mamie Till Mobley, to force the country to look at what had been done to her son by opening the casket to the world. When Medgar Evers was assassinated in 1963, it took 3 trials and 30 years before Byron Della Beckwith was finally convicted. And that conviction happened only because the case was reopened by dogged journalists and citizens who refused to let it lie. The pattern is old. The tools are new. Social media has not created this vigilance. It has simply given it a stage and a speed it never had before. A generation ago, the people asking hard questions about a case like this would have been written letters, organized in church basements, and waited months for a newspaper to notice. Today, a clip from a press conference travels across the country before the sheriff's department has finished the morning newspaper briefing. That speed can be reckless, and it has produced its share of false claims and premature speculation in this very case, but it has also done something the old system rarely allowed. It has put ordinary people in direct possession of the same raw material, the same statements, the same contradictions, the same gaps that used to belong exclusively to prosecutors, detectives, and all white juries. We are now watching. And what is happening around Nolan Wells is, in effect, a referendum on trust. Sheriff John Ledbetter says no foul play has been identified. The family's independent pathologist says he cannot rule it out. Reasonable people can hold both statements in mind and still feel the tug of history, because history has taught Black families in Mississippi in particular that no foul play identified and no foul play occurred are not always in the same sentence. That's not paranoia. That's memory. It's the memory of Till, of Edwards, and hundreds of cases with less coverage and no reward money, where the official story closed a file that the community never believed was actually closed. None of these requires anyone to prejudge what happened to Nolan Wells. The contradictions in the witness accounts make their own innocent explanation. Grief and fear can make people's stories bend without conspiracy at all. But the stench to watch closely, to compare notes, to refuse to let a single official narrative stand unchallenged, that instinct is not cynicism. It's called citizenship, exercised by people who've learned at the great cost that accountability is rarely handed down time by people willing to keep asking the question until somebody in authority is willing to answer them honestly. This is the real story here. Larger than any one island or any one's family grief, a community that has been told for generations to trust the process has decided once again to also watch it. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, none other than the president of the Disciples of Christ, the Honorable Dr. Reverend Terry Hort Owens, will be our regular contributor and be our guest. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt? Angela was. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $80,000. Felicia was having health problems, got behind on her taxes, interest and penalties were adding up. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $15,000. Civic Tax Relief is a professional tax negotiation firm that can protect you from the IRS. If you're getting collection letters, call Civic Tax Relief for a free consultation. They will go to work helping you discover all the relief programs you may qualify for free. James owed the IRS $37,000. Civic Tax Relief represented him against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, he did not owe the IRS anything. If you are in trouble with the IRS, call Civic Tax Relief for your free consultation now. 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257. Get a free consultation and real tax relief. Call 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257.
This November, you'll decide who leads California. So shouldn't you hear directly from the people asking for your vote? Join us for California Voices, a political town hall and ballot forum, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026. Meet candidates running for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and other major statewide and local offices, including mayor of Los Angeles, city attorney, and LA County sheriff. Get clear, nonpartisan breakdowns of the propositions on your November ballot, both sides, no spin. And ask your questions directly, in real conversation, face to face. California Voices is brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the Empowerment Congress, giving you the information you need before you vote. Mark your calendar, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026, California Voices. Follow KBLA 1580 for details and download the KBLA 1580 app. Your vote, your voice. Be there.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our regular contributor on Moving Mountain Mondays is none other than Reverend Dr. Terry Hort Owens. Dr. Owens, welcome forward to the show.
Thank you so much. Good to be with you today.
I am so grateful that you are here. Terry, got some breaking news that's surfacing on the internet of an African-American engineer who brought her skills to the case. And again, there are thousands of people critiquing and analyzing the evidence, statements that are made, witness statements, body language. They're all looking from different angles at the same person's, trying to determine innocence, guilt, culpability, credibility, you name it. We're all looking. But scientifically, she's a sound engineer, and she began peeling back the great onion that is the recording of the young man who called I don't know what they're called, the people who come in towboats. And when he called and was placed on hold, the call immediately starts recording all of the background conversation before the operator actually answers the phone. And when she strips all of this background noise away, they're talking about Nolan not breathing. They're talking about him being deceased. Someone hollers, "No, not Nolan. Oh my God." And they go on and on and on. And then the young man, when the operator picks up the phone, says, "Hi, we have a leak in our boat," and yada, 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 after the conversation has been peeled back. Reverend Owens, our people, our country, Mississippians, all have a reasonable distrust of the behavior of Mississippi officials, particularly in the Deep South, for decades, maybe since the founding of the Republic itself on this, the 250th anniversary. Your thoughts about this moment in our collective psyche?
You know, this, as you were saying earlier with Ernest, this pattern is not new. The stories and the lies that we're being told are not new, and the blatant disregard for Black life is not new. My first thought was, if these are such dear friends and he went missing, why is no one coming forward to share the narrative of what happened and what you certainly would have tried to do to save his life? We have this problem all over the country. And as I'm here in DC getting ready to preach tonight for a Moral Monday gathering in front of the White House, we have this responsibility to vote, but it's not just for those who go to DC. It's for our local prosecutors. It's for places where local judges can be voted upon, because there continues to be a society where our lives simply do not matter. And even young white people grow up in an environment knowing that the system is on their side. These young people have been allowed to simply be silent and not say anything. And as you said, our investigative procedures have had to we've had to go deep and go far and wide in order to find truth and justice for ourselves. But it is, it's sickening. It really is sickening that in 2026, there is still a generation of white people who simply understand it as the way that the world is, that they will not be even assumed to be complicit in anything, that they can simply be quiet, and that's okay. Presumptions being made about the inappropriateness of his behavior, that somehow whatever happened, he shouldn't have been where he was, blah, blah, blah. But this is how racism persists. When we're raising white people in a system that allows them to simply operate with impunity about just about anything. It's frightening.
If this is true, 7 families other than the Wells family are immediately impacted by whatever obstruction or behavior has taken place in some form of cover-up. Oftentimes we've heard that cover-ups are worse than the crimes themselves. Because people don't cut their losses. They don't own their behavior. They don't accept responsibility. We saw in the case, for example, of Della Beckwith. This man was allowed to live his whole life before the truth came out. We've seen that behavior repeated over and over and again. These are young, immature high school students who still have their entire lives in front of them. The entire community, the entire county, all of law enforcement, and the white infrastructure of that particular county, one of probably hundreds of counties in Mississippi, have an interest in ensuring that major players in the county don't all end up indicted and in prison. They have an interest in that.
Yeah, these are their children. They're their children that they're covering for. Yeah.
And an argument could be made, obviously not in the interest of justice, but an argument can be made that is a compelling interest in their inability to conduct a free, fair, and clear investigation. That's a compelling case. Our producer has a clip that she'd like to run.
Yo, this is why so-called jokes about lynchings and George Floyd like we saw at this roast will never be funny.
I need you to sit with this number for a second. Raynard Johnson, Mississippi, 2000. Otis Bird, Mississippi, 2015. Lennon Lacey, North Carolina, 2014. Trey Reed, Mississippi, 2025. Kyle Basinga, Georgia, 2026. Almost every single one of these cases ruled suicide. Some within days. Some before a full investigation ever happened. Families reporting broken bones, bound hands, feet touching the ground. And still, case closed. One civil rights organization found at least 70 suspected modern-day lynchings across 7 southern states since 2000. Just in the Deep South. 20 of them in Mississippi alone. And we all know who's from Mississippi that just was found unalived. Nolan Wells. So I have to ask, if this were happening to any other group of Americans in this concentration, in this pattern, would the FBI still be sitting on the sidelines? We're told this is one of the hardest hate crimes to prove. Black people aren't tying nooses and hanging themselves to trees. Not to mention the broken bones, feet on the ground. How's this happening? This isn't about assuming every ruling is wrong. It's about asking why the pattern itself isn't the investigation. It's about asking why these families have to hire their own forensic pathologists just to get a second opinion on their own child's death, as in the Nolan Wells case. They're hiring someone to do the autopsy outside of Mississippi. Black people in America have never been protected at the same standard as everyone else. This is just the latest proof. Say their names: Gerard Jackson, Tonae Miller, Juliana Nzita, Kai James, Denoris Richardson, Roy Veal, Clarence Otis Cole, Nick Naylor, Gregory Johnson, Frederick Jermaine Carter, Marco McMillan, Ben Keita, Philip Carroll.
The names and the patterns are too convincing for us, Madam President, to ignore. You're muted, Madam President, you're muted.
Absolutely. The patterns are too plain. And lest we think that, the definition of lynching is not just physically hanging people from a noose on a tree. It is people killing and torturing people and sort of taking justice into their own hands. And there's certainly a racial element to it, but people can be lynched in many ways. Otis Bird, I'll never forget that, being tied and dragged through the streets of his own city from the back of a pickup truck. There are just too many incidences of this for it to be coincidence. The cross that was burned in Grant Park in Chicago a few months ago, and with all the surveilling cameras that we have around the city of Chicago, and they're like, oh, we're not quite sure who did it. A young Asian man who said, oh, I didn't know what that symbol meant. I had no idea. But why are we just randomly burning crosses? People are not that ignorant of history, I don't think. And we're ready to make all sorts of explanations for this kind of torture and the disregard for life. And we're willing to give people the benefit of the doubt. And if the shoe was on the other foot, we're going to get killed for what you thought was a counterfeit $20 bill that I passed, or you thought I stole some candy. So you're willing to take my life, but you will prevent at all costs the lives of these non-Black folks when other lives are lost. It's like, I don't know what else to say. It just makes your stomach churn in anger. Really.
Let me ask you this question. You are one of the rare leaders, an African-American woman who leads a mainline denomination where African-Americans are actually, I believe, a minority within the congregation, both here in the United States and in Canada as well. There must be some solace and some hope in your thinking, given the broad cross-section of people who are analyzing, critiquing, offering their opinions about what happened to Nolan. It's not just Reverend Al Sharpton. It's not just Ben Crump. I mean, it has taken on a life of its own because there are many young whites who've been in meetings where they've heard their friends saying disparaging things about friends that they call their friends and certain behaviors. What are your thoughts about the reality that in this crazy, strange kind of way, a different kind of rainbow has formed for justice?
I think so, and the only rainbow that will succeed is indeed this pluralistic rainbow. The disciples of Christ have long had a priority to be an anti-racist church. I mean, our clergy have to do anti-racism training on just as they have to do repeated continuing professional education around boundaries and all that good sort of stuff every 4 to 5 years. All of our boards, ministry boards do this. We do this with people who start serving on our general board. It's constant reminder, and it's also a constant call to the whole church, as I'm always saying, to be the church that we say we are. And fortunately, because the church made those commitments long ago, it enables me to continue to call the church to account on those matters. I know lots of young clergy, young white clergy, young white lay people who are just as vocal about these issues and about these matters and find it appalling and disgusting and are speaking out in their local communities. We also have to get further into the pews. I don't think sometimes it's not that people don't care, but people sometimes think in the church, oh, this is that's politics. We don't need to get involved in that. Anything that touches humanity, the church has the right to speak and act about. That's the way of Jesus. It's the work of the church. Every single faith tradition has some corollary to the golden rule.
Madam President, let me ask you this question, because we have about 3 minutes, maybe 2 minutes and 45 seconds before we come forward. These racial cases take on a heightened awareness in our country, in our spirits. But I think an argument could be made in Los Angeles and certainly in Chicago and other major cities that dozens of young African-American men have been killed at the hands of African-American men in the last couple of months alone, black on black violence. Why not the outrage in that space, just as we're seeing the outrage in the Nolan Wells space?
I think that's a pretty layered kind of question. In some cases, we don't want to critique ourselves when we need to be holding ourselves accountable.
That's honest. That's honest.
We don't want to critique ourselves. But the other reality is that it's not just a matter of somebody having a gun and shooting. When you look at structures in society and a lot of these, they're rituals, rites of passage of belonging, right? In certain gangs, go out and shoot, go out and hurt, go out and do these things. And when we have an environment where young people are not presented with options, when certain expectations are not being set either in their own families or in their own communities, when your parents can't provide food on the table, when you are going to school in buildings that don't have heat or books, you look all around you on TV and everybody in the world seems to be prospering but you, and you have no vision nobody has shown you what the options are. You find a way to make the best way that you can. And lack of exposure, lack of education, we don't have systems within our communities that the wider cities and states are in. We're not making the investments in all of our communities. We wouldn't think about whether or not a white school on the North Shore had the right science equipment or whether their swimming pool. Remember that famous exchange between New Trier and Harper High School, where the white kids have all the latest science equipment, Olympic-sized pool. The black kids don't have books and the cracked pool. They don't have the resources. We have to quit aligning the value of our children with our property values, because if they don't see the resources that provide them with options and some sort of hopeful view of the future, they will take and make what it is that they need in order to feel hopeful themselves. So we all bear some responsibility for this.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Moving Mountain Mondays. Our very special guest, Reverend Teresa Terry Hord Owens, is our guest. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. 7 Save-A-Lot stores on Chicago's south and west sides have closed, raising concerns from local residents about food deserts.
It is not just here, it's nationally when it comes down to black communities.
The shutdowns come 4 years after the city gave parent company Yellow Banana more than $13 million to buy and renovate stores. Black Mayor Brandon Johnson blamed federal funding cuts and changes to SNAP. A Black Southwest Airlines flight attendant remains in ICE custody after being detained at Nashville International Airport. ICE says Lorenzo Thompson overstayed a 6-month visa from Jamaica issued in 2021. A fundraiser says Thompson has a valid work visa and a pending asylum case. And one of the nation's largest celebrations of Black theater is underway in Winston-Salem. The International Black Theater Festival features more than 100 performances and cultural events through Saturday. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Join the Dodgers for Max Muncy Game 7 Home Run Bobblehead Night on August 10th versus the Royals. The first 40,000 fans in the ballpark will take home this exclusive Max Muncy bobblehead presented by AMPM. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotion.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers lost to the Mets in New York Sunday 8-3. They wrapped up a 6-3 road trip. The Dodgers are back home Tuesday night against Seattle to kick off a 6-game homestand. Today is day 3 of the Rams training camp at Loyola Marymount. No word yet on whether Pro Bowl defensive tackle Aaron Donald is coming out of retirement. The 35-year-old Donald retired in 2024. Donald has been working out at the Rams facility for several weeks. The Chargers opened their training camp Wednesday in El Segundo. The Philadelphia 76ers confirmed that LeBron's son, Bronny, will not be part of a package deal to join his father. Sixers Vice President of Basketball Operations, Bob Myers, said there are no plans to pursue a trade for Bronny. LeBron signed with the Sixers on Friday. Bronny is entering his 3rd season with the Lakers. He's under contract with the Lakers for 1 more year. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Whoa,
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Number 14. That's where Talkers Magazine ranked Tavis Smiley on their heavy 100 list of the 100 most important talk radio hosts in America. Join Tavis weekdays, 9 a.m. to noon or 9 p.m. to midnight, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Knock, knock, Capital One Bank guy.
Wow, Charles Barkley?
I just moved into the neighborhood. Can I borrow some Wi-Fi?
Sure, Chuck. That's what the Capital One Cafe is here for, open 7 days a week.
Oh, can I use your ATM? My dog Walker only takes cash.
Anything for a neighbor.
Can I try the catchphrase?
Sure, take it for a spin.
There's no fees and minimums on Capital One checking accounts.
Nice, Chuck. I'll take it from here. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Visit CapitalOne.com/bankguide for details. Capital One and a member FDIC.
Don't be anxious or confused about AI. Take control of your career when you get the skills to tackle real business problems and design specialized solutions. HR Dive reported that entry-level talent with applied AI credentials can receive up to a 25% salary boost. But where do you find training that you can trust? Future-proof your career and deliver more value with Humans Lead the Way AI. Their hybrid learning courses use practical definitions, real-world examples, and strategic insights to help you and your team understand AI with confidence. No magic, no hacks, no shortcuts. Just practical knowledge that helps you use AI more successfully. Don't wait. AI can never replace people who know how to use it well. Register for courses today at humansleadtheway.com. That's humansleadtheway.com.
Onyx, I keep having stomach issues. Please make me a doctor's appointment.
Okay,
Are you suffering from diarrhea, bloating, gas, or oily stools? If so, you may want to ask your doctor if it could actually be a problem with your pancreas, called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI.
My pancreas? How is EPI treated?
A prescription medicine like Creon, pancrelipase, is used to treat people who can't digest food normally because their pancreas doesn't make enough enzymes. Creon is the #1 prescribed treatment for EPI.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you are allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon. You can learn more at 1-800-633-9110.
Before your appointment, visit creoninfo.com. That's CREON info.com.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Moving Mountain Monday on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Reverend Dr. Terry Hord Owens. Dr. Owens, welcome forward to the show.
Thanks. Always good to chat with you.
You know, I'd like to pivot if I can for a moment because the conversation about Nolan at this stage for me has become somewhat heavy. And I'd like to pivot to part of a conversation that I had with Ernest in the last hour, and that was about Tuskegee Institute and a number of institutions that are now changing their dress codes and their standards by which they will allow students to walk around their campuses and even maybe even enter their institutions, which I don't think is a bad idea, by the way. You're no longer at home with your parents. This ain't about your mama and your daddy and your neighborhood. This is preparing you for the real world, for that which is not only respectable, but for the adulthood that you are now being asked to assume. Some of these things should have happened back when you was in elementary school and when you were at home, but apparently they didn't. But that challenge in no small measure also falls on grown Black folk, not just at HBCUs, but other Black people who come into contact with young people in the community, and they allow this behavior without bringing the behavior to our children's attention. Your thoughts about Tuskegee changing the standards? No more rollers in their heads, no more pajamas to classroom, no more slippers on their feet. If you want to stay at Tuskegee School. By the way, a school where the airmen and other men and women of integrity attended, and their standards that they set for all of Black people. Madam President?
I think it's significant that we're talking about a historically Black college university here. It is not, I went to a predominantly white institution. And so the way I was taught to carry myself in those spaces is one thing. And we certainly understand, particularly at the point in time when I was in college. But I think our historically Black colleges, Spelman, Morehouse, Hampton, Howard, have all called their students to higher standards. It's a matter of how you reflect self-respect. We have watched our own beauty standards, right, and our own cool standards evolve over time from, a process and relaxed hair to natural, and now locks and twists. And all the other things. And there was a time when I remember counseling a young man in the 80s, young Black guy who used to play football for Northwestern, that he couldn't wear his earring at IBM because there would be certain assumptions that were made about him. But in the context of Black folks, helping Black folks to develop stronger senses of how you present yourself is certainly your choice in the world, but we do, I think, need to set standards in these environments. And you can, I'm on the Aunties Council, I'm old enough to be on the Aunties Council that says, my son is a musician. He lives in sweats and hoodies and a full beard. He gets to work in a way that I would never have been able to dress at work. So we see those shifts in society, and overall dress standards in corporate America are heavily relaxed. Angie's List headquarters used to be in the same building as our headquarters in Indianapolis. And you'd walk in and there would be in the lobby all these call center employees who were in pajamas and slippers. And Angie's List allowed them to be at work that way because they were simply on the phone. You never saw them. But most of us were like, wow, I would never have been able to show up at work dressing that way. So standards shift with cultural norms. But I think at the heart of this is simply these institutions seeking to instill a sense of pride. When I was growing up, you wore a fro, but it was blown out and picked out, and you had some Afro sheen. You were.
Rest in peace, George Johnson.
Yes, when I was in college, a friend of mine, senior year, you're exchanging pictures, and I'll never forget my friend Ronnie. On the back of my picture, he said, "Terry, thanks for always having your hair done in public," because there were girls who came, people white and black who came into the dining hall with curlers in their hair. I just would never have been allowed to do that, and never thought that was a way that I could present myself. But I think something about how we present, how we make connections, and if nothing more, to say I must insist myself on having higher standards for myself than maybe even society may have with me, because we have to learn how to hold ourselves to standards. In college, it may be imposed upon you. My sister is a Spelmanite. We were wearing jeans and sweaters at Harvard back in the 80s. She was in skirts and heels. It was just a culture about how you presented yourself in a very different environment. So I'm with the Aunties Council.
Well, I'm with the UNCs, and we on the UNCs Council, we don't like the behavior on airplanes. I mean, I put on a suit and a blazer or a suit and a regular T-shirt or something, but I look like I'm traveling from one city to the next city and that I belong on the plane. This isn't a Greyhound station, and I would ask for standards on Greyhound. Because Rosa Parks had standards when she sat on the Greyhound. And I would ask for standards when you get on a train, because we set standards and we call the community to higher standards. I agree with you on that. Speaking of standards, Reverend Owens, Cheyenne Bryant, I haven't mentioned her name on my show, but there's great controversy about her having a doctorate degree from a institution that was founded in May of 2026. Let me say that again, May of 2026. This is May, June, July, August. And the degree specifically has been sold and touted as an earned doctorate in theocentric psychological counseling. Never heard of that. And she's the only person in the history of this university to ever receive a PhD. She's the only person to ever receive a doctorate, as far as I can tell, in the history of something called theocentric psychology or whatever. And the internet is also lighting her up, suggesting that while she's counseling people and offering lots of advice, that there is no evidence that she has a doctorate at all. And I'm making a distinction between people who have life's work and receive honorary doctorates. I have an undergraduate degree at North Carolina A&T. I have a master's in theology. I have a law degree. I have 3 honorary doctorates from 3 different medical schools. They don't give them away lightly. And another 10 from major universities as well. So I don't call myself Dr. Jackson, although I could, I guess, but I don't. Your thoughts on the credentialing of us and how we see ourselves?
And I spent enough time in higher ed administration to know, and my dad's a retired college professor, but I believe firmly that if you say it's earned, it needs to be legitimate. I mean, you can get an MDiv online. You can be ordained online, and people that take it seriously would never allow themselves to do that. I've got multiple honorary doctorates. I'm in the midst of working on my PhD. I had to take some time off because of this role. And there are people who say, oh, yeah, Terry, why? People sort of assume that you're Reverend Doctor. And here's what's happened in our community. Everybody wants so badly to be doctor and Reverend Doctor. We want to, and you haven't seen a school and you're Reverend Doctor. You are shepherding 10 people and you're bishop.
You're bishop.
We want these titles, and we don't have the preparedness that the credentialing should signify. And I think we do ourselves a great disservice. And the people who do this good work and put the work in, I will print my name as Reverend Doctor when I earn that degree.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580 with Reverend Terry Horton. Some more when we come forward on KBLA.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's game day. Are your moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms keeping you from the action? Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, could help you get back to the game. Skyrizi is proven to help people feel significant symptom relief, achieve remission, and visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining. Skyrizi is a prescription injection medicine for adults. Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines. Liver problems leading to hospitalization may occur when treated for Crohn's or ulcerative colitis.
Control is everything to me.
Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 prescribed biologic in Crohn's and ulcerative colitis combined. Learn more at skyrizi.com or 1-866-SKYRIZI.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. These are hard times for housing in America. Too many in our community face barriers to safe housing, behavioral health care, and affirming spaces for healing, particularly those impacted by poverty and stigma or incarceration. Rooted in South LA, Ahmad supports impacted communities through housing, wellness, and leadership development. Ahmad provides culturally responsive, peer-led support from transitional housing and mental health services to leadership development and youth empowerment. They offer safe, affirming houses for youth, transgender women, and formerly incarcerated individuals. Therapy and peer support with a focus on healing trauma in Black communities. HIV prevention and care, free testing, education, and wraparound services for whole person wellness. Standing in the gap with health, housing, and hope. Reach out to Ahmad Institute at 323-569-1610. That's 323-569-1610. Or visit amaad.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. The midterm election campaign season is here now. The 2028 presidential election is right around the corner. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. It's all in for 2026 and 2028. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Wally drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
Jesse Jackson Jr., welcome forward to the. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Moving Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest is the General Minister and President of the Disciples of Christ, Reverend Owens. Welcome forward to the show.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here.
You know, one of the ways, Madam President, that we earned our respect deep in the South after we kind of figured out that the idea was to disrespect us was how we named our children.
Mm-hmm.
My dad said that in deep Mississippi that they want to call you boy so bad. So if your last name was Williams, some parents would actually name their child Mr. So when the young man would say, "What's your name?" "My name is Williams." "No, what's your first name, boy?" "My name is Mr. Williams." Make him call you Mr. Williams. We got other young kids in the Deep South whose parents named them Judge. Judge Mitchell. So the title became their first name as a kind of defensive mechanism for ending the ongoing disrespect of our personhood.
Yeah.
Our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors would give us names that reflected the respect that we deserve. So when people would call our names, we were associated with some kind of greatness, some kind of respect. Have we lost that, Madam President?
I think we have lost the sense of the ritual of naming. You know, African cultures named you things that you could grow into and named you after traditions and people that you could grow into. My dad, again, same age as your dad. They were born in the same year. And my name is Teresa Darlene. I was named after my mom, her middle name, Darlene. I've never been called Teresa. Everybody calls me Terry. And I once asked my mom, why do you call me Terry? Why didn't you just legally name me Terry? She said, I thought you needed to have a more formal first name. But my dad, his best friend, when his children were born, he had two sets of kids. The oldest two are Elaine and Franklin. With the third and fourth and fifth child, my dad participated in choosing African names for these people who were all born in the early 70s. If I had been born maybe 6 or 7 years later, I probably would have an African name, but it probably would mean something. Like my friend's, her name is Tuere Tene, and it means beloved of the heart. Hodari Kobie. My dad took an African name, Umze Lasana Akpara. Umze simply means teacher, and he took his given Anglo name, Frederick Lee, and translated Lasana means poet, and Akpara, I think, means teacher. So he put together a name. What I see is people putting syllables together.
Yeah.
And interesting spellings of things, and the names don't mean anything. You have a right to name your child whatever you want to name them, but let it mean something. Let it mean something. Let it honor someone.
Usually those names fall in the Laws and the Ras.
Laws and the Ras and
Laws and you know, what was a parent thinking when they named you Junebug? I mean, what future does Junebug have? I mean, is Junebug Attorney Junebug?
Junie, yeah.
Yeah.
But I've learned that my name means, Teresa means harvester. Darlene means beloved. So I grew up with a sense of a name ought to mean something. And my son, he's a third because my husband is a junior and he wanted a third. I think your son is a third. as well, so you understand that dynamic. But that name Mitchell is a derivative of, or a variation on, like Michael, one who was like God. So we call Mitchell by his middle name because he's a third. But I think names should mean something, regardless of how they're spelled or how they sound. If you don't know what your name means, and even if you have a name that has European ancestry or origins, you need to find out what does that name actually mean. Because the Africans named you something that you could live into. They were speaking destiny over you, and I think that's a powerful act. Not just making up a cute name because you think it's cute and you're going to spell it.
My grandmother named my father Jesse because of son of David. And his middle name is not Lewis, it's Louis, because Joe Louis was the heavyweight champion of the world, I believe, at the hour of his birth. He brought pride to the Black community. But because he was not born in his father's home, my grandmother adopted him. My great-grandmother adopted him. He was Jesse Louis Burns. And then my grandmother ultimately, at age 16, married Charles Jackson. And that's how he became Jesse Louis Jackson. And when I think about my younger brother, Yusuf Jackson, it's Yusuf Du Bois Jackson. My mother named him after W.E.B. Du Bois. And no one knows the souls of Black folk better than my younger brother, because it compels him to know more about who he was and who he is because of the longing to understand your name. Madam President?
My dad, Frederick Lee, those are the names of his two grandfathers. And he was named after his paternal grandfather, and his middle name from his maternal grandfather. He named my brother Frederick Mark. My brother didn't have a son, but that name Fred, and his name was Fred John Horde. And so the John and the Fred lives in the legacy. My grandfather was Noel Ernest Horde. My uncle, my dad's younger brother, who just passed away a couple of months ago, was Noel Edward. He named his son Noel Daniel. And now Noel D, as we call him, has a son, Noel Phillip. And so the name that's been passed on goes back to this powerful preacher who was an activist and a militant preacher in Terre Haute, Indiana. And Fred John Horde, his father, who was an activist and an entrepreneur in Indianapolis, Franklin. And so when you know those stories, I think you can take even names that were given, if they're not African or unique, they mean something because there's some history there.
Terry, thank you for being with us this week.
Thank you. It's good to be with you. Pray for me. And I'm out on the street in front of the White House tonight. So
I promise I will. Don't let him get to you, Terry. Destination Crenshaw is behind schedule, years behind schedule. Residents, businesses, churches, artists, and other stakeholders have questions, and they deserve real answers, not just promises. If empty promises poured concrete, this project would have been open years ago. This week, join us at Community Town Hall to talk about the delays, the timeline, and what happens next for the Crenshaw Corridor. This public hearing is your chance to get on the record and speak directly to the people making these indecisions at City Hall. Join us this Thursday, June 30th at 6:30 p.m. at Bethesda Temple Church, 4909 Crenshaw Boulevard. Between the construction crawl and the parking spots, it is eaten alive. Rideshare is now less a suggestion and more of a survival tactic around here. So please rideshare if you can. If you cannot join us in person Thursday night, this public hearing will be broadcast live on radio and streamlined online at KBLA Talk 1580. Our town hall warm-up hosted by Cordelai Corte starts live at 6 p.m. Tavis Smiley moderates the town hall at 6:30 p.m. Don't miss it. It's your culture, your community, your voice, and it's our time. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580. This has been Moving Mountain Mondays. Reverend Terry Horde Owens has been our very special regular contributor. More when we come back on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.